Hello everyone, welcome to Dice on Ice. My name is Megan, and we're back. We're back into the swing of things with our Curse of Strahd campaign. I am so very excited to get back into it, and I know it's been a while, so I'm just going to do a really quick recap. You guys were invited to Madame Daggerford's place for dinner, although you're not really exactly sure why, but you came anyway. It meant free food, free lodgings in a mansion. But before Duchess Daggerford got a chance to tell you, she heard some news about this band of vagabonds that were outside of the city walls, causing just mischief and bugging the townspeople, and she pleaded with you guys to help her. And you guys agreed, and there you met a group of just the most lively people. They were dancing, they were singing, and they asked you to stay for a while so that they could tell you a story. And there they plead of you another question, they plead of you to help them to save their lord who has fallen into darkness. And he is from this land called Barovia, which is nothing anyone had heard of before, but apparently it was very close. So you agreed on the condition that you would be able to come back after you talked to Madame Eva, who was the leader of this group, who would be able to tell you more information. However, upon getting into Barovia, you were immediately surrounded by these mysterious mists, and these mists almost pushed you forward down the road until you saw these two children crying on the side of the road, and they ask you for help. Their house has a monster in it, and their little baby brother Walter is still trapped inside. They don't know where their parents are, but their little brother, that is who they are most worried about. And you make sure that they're safe. They go down by the creek near the house, and you go in. And as you go in, well, the door closes, and you are greeted by a very beautifully kept house. And we end with Everchild crawling into the dumbwaiter to go up to the second floor to the servants' quarters, and the rest of you going upstairs. And we ended with Everchild seeing this horrific sight of a woman laying on an altar, her body undulating with these weird growths just underneath her skin, pulsating out until she eventually bursts. And that's where we had ended. So we're going to pick up with the rest of you, Eli, Feleth, and Oscar. You are walking up the stairs, and you see as well as Gleowin is with you as well. You are traveling up the stairs, and you see this poem that Gleowin and Oscar had seen, and it is in this dripping red paint. You hear nothing. It is very surprisingly silent, even though you had heard harpsichord music just a bit before. Everything is eerily quiet. And so as you make your way up to the second floor, you see this in front of you. There's a room with 4 of these armored figures standing silently, not moving. And though your mind almost plays a trick on you, you almost see one take a breath. But when you look towards it, when you actually focus on it, there is nothing. What do you do?
I'm gonna go. Go ahead, Jake.
I'm gonna go take a closer look at this one that I thought I saw move. I've got this this sword that I pulled from above the mantle, the one with the windmills engraved into it, that I'm holding at the ready. And I want to take a closer look at this suit of armor.
As you walk up to this suit of armor, as you slowly approach it, this sudden exhale of breath comes flowing out of the helm and hits you. It has the stench of flowers, sickly sweet. Something you would not expect.
I immediately pull from under my collar, or no, from inside a pocket. I quickly grab a handkerchief and cover my mouth, taking a moment, making sure nothing else is happening. Watch yourselves.
So maybe approaching strange suits of armor in an unfamiliar house isn't the best idea. Felitha will say as she pulls out the 2 kitchen knives that Oscar had kind of laid out on the kitchen counter downstairs. She'll take those out, kind of grip them both, looking around. Is there anything else interesting in this room apart from the door and the 4 suits of armor? Anything at all?
Yes, you see on the north end, there is a fireplace. And above it, you see a portrait. You immediately recognize 2 of the children, Rose and Thorn, who smile down on you. There are 3 other figures. Their mother, you would assume her face darkened with a hint of scorn, cradles a swaddled baby. The man, you would think that he would be looking mighty and stoic, but his eyes have been cut out of the painting.
Huh. And Fel would kind of walk over to Eli, keeping an eye on the offending suit of armor, and just nod in the direction of the portrait and say, Eli, I assume the father's eyes have been cut out in that painting above the mantle up ahead. I wonder, could someone be watching us from there? Maybe?
So naturally, you assume the best person to ask is the shortest amongst us.
You're the self-proclaimed monster hunter. You know more about this than I do.
Well, while there is a bit of merit to what you're saying, this painting's above the mantle, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're right to be suspicious, Val. behind that mantle would be the chimney of the fireplace. Stone and whatnot. I imagine it not exactly the best place for somebody to hide and spy out at us.
So you think it's just spite then? Whoever carved the eyes out of the painting is just someone who didn't like this person, I'm assuming?
Well, wouldn't be the first time I've seen that either. I'll take a closer look and just see, looking specifically to see if I can see behind it. I mean, it kind of looks pretty obvious though that the eyes are gouged out.
Yeah, it's extremely obvious. And if you were to look close enough, you would see that behind the eyes, or where they would have been, is the brick of the chimney.
Yeah, I don't think we got much to worry about with this one, but just keep our eye on some of the any other paintings we might encounter in here, especially if they're on a interior wall.
Right. Do we know, as far as the Everchild goes, how high up he's going to be? I mean, do we know, would the dumbwaiter be coming out in this room here? And she'll nod over to the doorway to the left. Do we know where he's going to come out?
I'm not entirely sure the Everchild knows where he's going to come out. I suspect, take a look and see if there's another access port for the dumbwaiter and see if he's come out there or if he's continuing on up. Only one way to know. And I'm going to head over to the door.
Which door?
To the left.
This one?
And yeah, and I will reach out with my hand and then stop and kind of look at the others. Are we all right with this?
I do not like this whole place. What of these? And he points at the armored statues again. It move, it breathe on you.
Well, aside from exhaling a stagnant air upon me, I did not take much affront to its actions. I can't say as it's much more than elaborate decorations at this point. But while we head through the door, Oscar, you go ahead and watch our back just in case. And you can probably tell there's a trace of, more than a trace of seriousness to my tone. I'm not just having a laugh.
I will watch everything. And Oscar is looking over his shoulder constantly, kind of turning and eyeing these statues, these suits of armor specifically. Are they armed? Do they have...
Yes, they each have a spear resting on the ground, and they're holding it upright.
The one that breathed or seemed to have exhaled. Oscar's gonna he's just gonna reach up and he's gonna poke the helmet.
Immediately you hear this clanging noise, this cacophony of metal as this figure just collapses at your touch into nothing more than just a pile of parts of armor. And you can see almost this of air escape, the dust rising up. And upstairs, suddenly coming... but maybe it's not upstairs. You hear it again from downstairs, and then from all around you, out of the chimney, above your heads, below your feet, to your left, to your right, you hear this steady chanting. It's deep. Whoops. It's deep and it is forceful but quiet. But it fills you all with this sense of dread. And we're going to switch quickly to the Ever-Child. What you have seen is now gone, and what lies before you is nothing more than a room, a small room. It's dusty and undecorated. It has 2 lumpy, straw-filled mattresses that sit on worn-out bed frames from under which footlockers loom. You can see what is left of servants' uniforms, which hang in an open closet. They are absolutely destroyed by what looks like moths. But otherwise, the room is very nondescript, very plain.
Everchild has been stricken white with the ghastly sight he witnessed. He clutches at something around his neck tightly in a fist as he is bowing his head, solidifying himself in silent prayer before he continues and climbs out of the dumbwaiter and begins to cautiously, with padded feet, for his feet are very calloused as a halfling, to make his way around the room.
You do so. And you can see that there is a door just across from where you came out of the dumbwaiter. And you suddenly feel a hand on your shoulder.
Everchild looks over his shoulder, steeling himself for whatever may come, to the side that has the hand on it. Expecting of all people, Glaewin to be standing next to him, as Glaewin always does, as Glaewin is always silent, but always there. And he looks over his shoulder, and what does he see?
And as you expect, you see the tall figure towering above your own, silhouetted against these drab walls. You see the figure of Glaewin.
And I reach up and I grab her hand and hold it in mine.
She kneels down until kind of spins you around until you two are facing each other. I have to go now. The Raven Mother calls me. You
And
will stay here.
Everchild will tell her, in the silent voice that Everchild has. May your travels be well. May you always follow the light.
I will see you again before long. And with that, you can see that her body immediately shifts and at once becomes a bunch of ravens on her form, and they immediately disperse, fading through the walls.
I imagine that in this moment, a bunch of the raven's feathers would kind of get tossed into the room, and one would be in front of Everchild as it slowly drifts to the floor, and he'd grab one of these raven feathers, black and oily, and he'd keep it in his hand, holding it. And almost as if a child is holding one of their favorite toys when they're scared and in the dark, he holds this feather close to him as he sits in silent moment. He's praying for Gleowin and her safe travels. But then he leaves this somber moment and continues to inspect the room, still with the raven feather in hand.
You see that everything has a layer of dust on it. It has not been used. It has not even... You are the first person to tread within this room for many, many years. Smells musty and old, which is a stark contrast to the rest of the house, or at least the first floor that was pristine.
So, Everchild sees two doors out of this room, correct? A main door and what looks like a closet door?
So that door down here is where you came out of, the dumbwaiter.
Ah, the dumbwaiter door. Gotcha.
Yeah, and this door is an actual door.
Okay. He will look at these moth-eaten, caterpillar-soaked beds, looking in, kind of on them. He's not going to disturb them too much. He's just going to make sure that there isn't some infant or toddler hiding under them, because that's where he knows that a child would be if they were scared, hiding under the bed. And so he would check these places.
We're going to jump quickly back to the rest. All of a sudden, the chanting stops. There's this breathy silence that overtakes you. You feel as though someone is watching you, or maybe many people are watching you. And if one of you looks to the paintings, you see that it is in fact the mother in the painting. With the same scorned look, she stares at you all, following your movements.
Oscar, if your intention was to alert everybody in the house as to our presence, you have succeeded admirably.
This was not me. The shoddy craftsmanship. Who put this together? Maid's not dusted. Not my fault.
Oscar, maybe you should try and do that. And Fel is sort of, she's talking to Oscar, but she's looking at the painting, at the mother's scornful expression that seems to be following them. Maybe you should try and do that to the other suits of armor in the room as well, just to make sure. I've heard that certain, and she just sort of trails off. Just try that to the other suits of armor as well. At this point, there's clearly no intent or no purpose in trying to be quiet or sneaky.
We yelled loud when we came in.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So let's go ahead and do that to the other suits of armor. I've read stories about spellcasters that are able to animate suits of armor into sort of construct guardians. Let's make sure that none of these suits of armor are one of those things.
They are pieces. And he kicks some of the ones that are on the floor, the scraps of armor. But he will reach down, if possible, Megan, and pick up the spear that it had been holding.
Yep. You may.
And with the butt of the spear, he'll walk over and, like a bull in a china shop or a kid playing with things he clearly shouldn't, he'll just hit the knees or the ankles of the other suits of armor. Hello! Hello! Shouting.
And like before, they all collapse into heaps. Feleth, you look to the mother. And you blink. And suddenly, it is not that stranger, but a very familiar, scornful face looks back at you. And you see that it is the Duchess, Morwen Daggerford, who stares at you.
So I think almost out of reflex and remembering their last conversation and how that ended, Felitha is just going to take one of the daggers in her hand and almost instinctively just whip it at the painting. Probably not a great throw, If you want, I can roll an attack, but that's how she's going to react. She's just so startled by this sudden transformation of the painting's face.
Yeah, just roll me an attack, just to see if you are able to make your mark. It'll stick into the wall, but just where.
That is a 20. So imagine it's not a great throw, but it probably will hit.
So I imagine you take one of these kitchen knives, and yeah, you just throw it against it. It sticks right into the center between this woman's eyes.
And Fel is just breathing heavily, and then she looks to you, Eli, and just says, "But does it still look like Morwen's face, or has it changed back to the mother's face at this point?"
It looks like the mother's face, and Eli, you would just see this strange woman.
Eli, I swear it was my aunt's face for just a moment, and shit. And she walks over to the mantle, and she's gonna try and, I guess, like, awkwardly kind of get on top of it to get the dagger out of the wall if she can.
Yeah, I would say you're able to, with some effort, just take it out of the wall. When you get closer, you see that there is some wallpaper on the wall. And when you first walked in, it looked like youths dancing. Young children holding hands over and over again. But you see, upon closer look, when you walk up, you see that they are not playing and laughing, but screaming. Tears rolling down their face. They look as though they are running from something, but you cannot see what is behind them before the pattern ends and starts anew.
Right. So let's go into one of these other rooms quickly and find the Everchild. This place is extremely fucking disturbing.
I've been standing here pretty much this whole time with all the clattering of the armor and throwing daggers at paintings with my hand on the doorknob, and with that I will open the door.
So before you see what lies before you, the Everchild, you suddenly hear the clattering cacophony of metal hitting the ground. It's coming from the door just outside of it.
Do I also hear the accompanying shouts of Oscar and his mad ravings as he smashes them?
Yes, you do recognize the voice. And as you look under the bed, you see there are etchings on the floorboards under the beds. Though you cannot see what they say, because they are too dark and obscured by the cots.
Everchild would trot over to the door, and he would creak it open slowly. He's going to peer through the crack of the door, just to make sure that is actually Oscar, not some kind of doppelganger. Who knows what the mind will do in this place. And upon seeing his allies, he'll just make a gesture of like, come.
They're facing away from you, I think, at this moment. They look like they're just opening the door on the other side, so I don't know that. I mean, you guys can roll to see if you notice him, but
seeing that they aren't facing me, I would like rap on the door in the same way that you would, kind of knock on a door of someone's office or something to get their attention. It's like knock, knock, knock.
Oscar would spin around with the new spear in hand, ready to throw it out this knocking sound.
I look
Have
at
trouble
the
motion.
door that my hand is on, like, what?
Ho, 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 ho. Hey, look who it is. You're
And
not dead. Good.
Phil
Come.
will turn around at that and smile at the Everchild and gesture for him to come over.
Everchild shakes his head vigorously and no gestures. No, you come here, kind of thing.
We are a wrecking house. The house did not let us out. We will destroy it from within. I
mean,
this.
that's probably not a good idea, but I think we need to go over to the Everchild, and Fel will start to walk over to him, putting the daggers back in the sheaths at her hips.
And Everchild will actually, kind of half hidden by the half-cocked door, will hide in the folds of his vestments the feather of Gleowin, just to kind of hide her fate a bit. And then, leading Felitha into the room, he'll point at the bed, and that might seem a bit strange. And then he kind of like goes down onto his knees and is like kind of crawling, and he's showing like there's something here, kind of just pointing down here. As he then like stands up and tries to heave on the cot, but he's way too small to even pull it.
And Fel getting the idea would definitely help him move the bed, but she would also say, you know, if you need to communicate, you could just do that thing that you did before. You talked, and she kind of gestures towards her head as they move the cot, or try to anyway.
Yeah, it's very easy to move the cot once it's not attached to anything, so you are able to kind of flip it. And does anyone read Infernal?
As a matter of fact, I do not.
So all you see is this writing. It looks like a few words from what you can gather, but the language looks very aggressive, and there's tons of different stroke marks and lines and circles. And even just to look at it kind of makes your eyes burn a little bit.
Can I make a religion check on this?
Yes, you may.
That is a... Why can't I find it on this character sheet? Oh, there it is. That is a 10.
You know that this language is... It's evil. That's all you know.
Did Everchild notice only one set of scrawling underneath this particular bed, or was it underneath both?
It was underneath just the one.
Okay. Everchild will take a section of his prayer book. There's a bunch of pages at the end that are at the end of this vellum that are unused, and he's going to take one of these pages. And he's going to pause for a moment before he does this, as he ushers a quick silent prayer. He puts one of this page over the. So is the writing like in some kind of like engraving into the floor? Or
Yeah,
is it like some
it's etched.
Yeah,
in.
so he'll take this page, and with his charcoal, he's gonna just like do a rubbing of it. Though he feels like a blasphemer when he does this.
So it'll take a few pages because it's the symbols are fairly large, but you will be able to do that. Okay.
Yeah, and so he'll copy down this, though it's something he's not really happy to do. And then he'll actually, after he copies them down, he'll rip them out of the prayer book, and he'll hand them to you, Philitha. These infernal scrawlings.
All right, and she'll
As he
take
just kind
them.
of like shoves them into your chest. Like,
all right, fine. Kind of take them a little awkwardly and just kind of put them in her bag.
He nods.
Oscar, are you in the main room still, or have you gone into the other room that you were going to go to?
Everyone may have noticed, but Oscar is not a fan of small spaces. He wants to be outdoors or in large rooms. And so, whenever that is a question, always assume he's in the larger area. At the moment, he is walking around, kicking small bits of armor about and singing a little song to himself. 1 spear, 2 spear, 3 spear, 4. I have 4 spears all myself. And he's just sort of picking the spears up and shouldering them, kind of looking to see which one is the least bent or which one seems to be the nicest. And he's kind of like dusting off the spearheads. And honestly, like the concern for what the others is doing is very minimal for him, especially if he notices them dealing with paper or books or anything of that sort.
Okay. So do the rest of you come out? There are 2 footlockers that are also in the room other than the beds.
An average child will definitely be trying to unclasp these.
They aren't locked, so you're able to open them. On the side where you found the engravings, inside this chest is another small box with more of this writing on it. It's wooden and has more of these type of symbols all around it. And you can see that great care was given to make these markings. It was definitely made by a skilled carpenter on some very, very nice dark wood.
Everchild opens this chest, sees this object, and closes the lid again. Just exhales deeply. And then opens it to show Philitha and Eli what's in here.
What do you think, Eli? This doesn't look great. Not that anything in this house looks great, honestly.
Well, it seems with every step we take and every corner we turn, things get just a little bit darker. I have my foot in 2 places, as they say. I'm of one mind to leave that box here, untouched, unmolested. There are certain tales that tell of, well, no good that comes from opening a box, especially one with much care and this kind of writing on it. However, I'm also not inclined to leave such a box out where just anybody can get it. Given those 2 choices, I have to say I'm in favor of taking possession of that box. Though perhaps that was a poor choice of words.
A little bit, but and this look of concern passes over her pale, freckled face, but then she nods slowly and says, I agree. I think after everything we've seen already, I think we should take this just to make sure it doesn't fall into worse hands than ours. Could you put it in your ruck, maybe? Your rucksack? And she'll nod towards the chest on your back.
How big is the smaller box?
It's very, very small. It's only maybe a foot big. It's quite small. You can hold it in both hands.
While that seems a good course of action, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to know what's in it.
That seems like a bad idea.
Also seems a bad idea to put a container of who knows what into a case on my back.
But you're the monster hunter. You deal with these kind of situations, right?
I deal with monsters.
And other weird shite, I assume?
I've dealt with my share of weirdness, but I generally don't put it at my back where it can quite literally get me from behind. Now, just give me a moment with this.
All
Eli,
right.
I feel like you're like holding this box, and like as you're talking with Felitha, you're getting a bit more.
Wait,
Like,
have you guys picked up the box?
I didn't
Oh.
pick up the box.
Okay.
Damn it, Connor.
Eli, as you're like reaching for this box, Everchild's gonna put his hand on yours to just kind of like stop it for a bit, and Eli, this will be the first time you ever hear it. Everchild's silent voice, and he says to you, "Remember the trials of the one who brought all evils. With knowledge comes burden. Remember this."
I'll give a nod to Everchild. And with a reflexive, barely audible prayer to Shantea, I take the box.
I need the three of you in the room to make a dexterity saving throw, please.
Womp, 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 womp.
Well, let's see. What's my dexterity?
I'm rolling really well so far tonight. How about a 17?
I got a 13.
Well, I'm quicker than a jackrabbit on a hot skillet.
On a barbecue. Yeah.
I got a 19.
I love that old saying about the jackrabbit on a hot skillet.
I started that and had no end to it. It's a 19 though.
Everchild, you feel a slight prick on your neck. And you see blood. I guess the rest of you see this too, begin flowing out of Everchild's neck.
And I feel that Everchild was the one who failed his save, essentially, because he was busy staring kind of like into the face of Eli to assure him in his choice. And he's still just staring at you, Eli, as the blood pours from his neck. And he brings up a gentle hand and touches it and feels the wetness, looks at it, and he has genuine fear in his eyes as he then like pushes on the wound. How deep or nasty or like lethal does this wound feel? Is
It's
it like
very-
a
It's very small,
yeah?
not very deep, but it just hit in the right spot to have the most
just like
amount
a-
of bleeding.
Is it like a slow bleed or a
It's very fast, and there is a lot of blood for the size of the wound. You would not expect that. You are going to take 5 points of damage
holy cricky?
as the blood begins to flow down your shirt. Eli, are you holding the box? You didn't feel anything once you picked it up.
I would imagine not feeling anything, and maybe not even. I don't know if I would even make the connection between grabbing the box and Everchild taking a wound. So I would have the box in a hand, but also suddenly turn alarmed at Everchild and the flowing blood.
And so you see Everchild's blood flow slowly down his shirt, staining it, down his pants, onto the floor. And it almost begins to move in this serpentine-like fashion towards you, Eli. And it slowly starts crawling up your leg, up, down your arm, and starts filling in the grooves on the box. And Everchild, you feel a hand on your shoulder. Though this one is much larger, firmer and colder than Gleowin's. Thank you. Your youth is intoxicating. And then the hand is gone. And the blood flowing from your neck stops.
What
Damn.
the fuck just happened? Are you alright?
He looks a bit shaken, obviously, but he nods slowly. And then it becomes more assuredly is a vigorous nod.
Bella's just gonna look over at Eli and just shake her head, her pale green eyes wide, as if asking him, what is happening right now? What is this?
Did y'all see that?
The blood flowed from the Everchild's neck into the grooves on the box.
All right, just making sure. And I'm going to shrug out of my ruck and unfasten it, kind of lay it down and open it up and reach inside to the pocket where I have a flask of holy water. And I'm going to set this box down on the floor with trembling hand. With my other hand, I just hold the bottle up by my mouth and pop the cork, and I begin pouring holy water onto the outside of this chest.
You see that it immediately begins to smoke. Steam comes flowing out of the chest as soon as you begin to pour this water on. And in the distance, you can hear a woman shrill scream. You manage to wash away all of the blood, yet the box remains intact, despite all of the smoke and the steam.
And unfortunately, I would have, or perhaps fortunately, I don't know, I would have poured the entire contents of the flask. I'm just marking that off of my inventory. I'm going to, now, this is just partly just for my edification, because it's been a while since we played. The weapons that I had strapped to the outside of my chest were gone.
Mm-hmm.
Inside my chest, are there still wooden stakes and a hammer?
No. I would say no. The hammer, no. The wooden stakes, yes.
What about my crowbar?
No.
Crowbar's gone too. All right, fine. I'm going to hand the one of the wooden stakes. I'm going to pull it out. It's a beefy wooden stake made of ash. And I'm going to just kind of thrust it up at Felitha. Come here, hold this.
Why does everyone keep trying to shove things into my hands today? Look, and she kind of
Just hold it.
I got it. Fine. She kind of holds it, her hand shaking a little bit.
Hold it over this box.
All right. She does so.
And I'm going to raise my right fist like this up above, as with my left hand, I'm going to try to open the box.
You do so. It clicks open.
I don't like that the music just stopped at that.
Child would step about 4 paces back from the box. Moments ago.
Inside this box, you see that there are a couple of raven feathers, a cat skull, a lock of hair, and a folded piece of paper.
Should I stab the skull?
I open my right fist and I just reach and take the wooden stake out of Fell's hand. That was just in case there was a heart in there.
You thought there was going to be a heart inside that box.
What'd you think was going to be in there?
Not a heart. I don't know. There's a piece of paper in the box. Let's just get that out of there. She's so just confused and out of her element. She actually kind of steps back to where the Everchild is and just kind of sits down and leans against the wall, just staring into the middle distance for a few seconds. just look at the fucking note. I don't even know what's going on anymore.
All right. I'm a little bit calmer. Still a little bit on guard, but I will take the piece of paper.
It's folded once. And if you were to open it, there is scrawled very, very fine handwriting. Beautiful calligraphy. And it looks to be a letter. It says, "My dear Miss Petrovna, your advice on dealing with the unwanted fiend in my house was very good advice indeed. Tonight's ceremony will proceed as planned when the moon is at its highest peak, without, of course, the attendance of Mr. Durst. I must agree with you that yes, with such an innocent sacrifice our proceedings may have better results, although innocent is not quite the term I would use. My thanks, Mrs. Elizabeth Durst."
And I imagine I would have read that out loud. Very interesting. All right. We're definitely dealing with something of a cult nature. All right. I'm going to close the box. I'm going to put the letter back inside. I'm going to close the box. And I'm going to put the wooden stake back where it belongs. And I'll find a spot within the box / pack that other box, the weird box, can kind of fit it in my pack there. And then close it all back up. Just in case this is important to someone.
Oscar, you're in the main room, kind of kicking around all of these different metal pieces, and you hear the sound of a soft growl coming from that room that you almost had gone into. You also hear the sound of what seem to be soft footsteps, also coming from that room.
So Oscar had been, kicking around the pieces, not really listening to the conversation in the other room. He heard something about a cult. He doesn't like cults. He kind of growls to himself, and then he hears what he thought was his growl again. What? He turns, looking at the door. And he kind of prods another piece of armor, but he listens at the door a bit more.
You hear it again, the soft sound of a growl, the padding of footsteps.
Guys. And he'll, let them finish their conversation and such. Hello, guys.
Everchild's attention has grabbed as he was probably the most distant, probably even standing in the doorway. And he looks up to you.
Quit playing with your toys. There must be dog here. And he taps the butt of his spear against the door that Eli never opened. I hear.
Everchild furrows his brow, and comes kind of with his little pity-patty steps, up to you, Oscar. And he's kind of just listening, and even smelling the air as well. Smelling and listening for a dog.
Here, I have this for you. And he'll hand him one of the spears.
And he just pushes it away, no.
Why not spear? Perfectly good spear. Yeah.
He kind of he points at you and holds 2 fingers up.
I have 4 spear. Yeah. Guys, he's looking towards Fel and Eli to see if they've come out yet.
Yeah, I would imagine I'm kind of pulling my rock back, just shrugging it back into place as I move back out into the hallway to see what Oscar's grumbling about.
Oh, we are looting. Good. I thought I was the only one. I see. We must have got something. Good. Here. And he'll hand out a spear to Fel and a spear to Eli, keeping 2 to himself.
And Fel would sort of be trailing behind Eli, actually having taken a moment alone in that room with the chest that the other box came from, and she would have just muttered under her breath, "This was such a fucking mistake." And then she'd get up and then follow out. She'll take the spear kind of awkwardly, clearly not used to holding something like this, and she'll kind of look at you, Oscar, and just say, what are we doing with these? Is there something around?
I think I hear a dog on this door. And again, he kind of butts the door with one of his spears. Only thing so far other than weird noise.
Right. All right. Hopefully it's just a dog.
Everchild looks to the bottom frame of the door, as well as kind of the ground around the store. He's looking for scratch marks, bite marks, claw marks, bits of hair left by a hound of any kind.
Make
kind
me
of any kind of evidence.
Okay, make me an investigation.
Oh, there you go. That's gonna be a 20. A dirty 20.
You find a gremlin that is outside my door. You find a little tuft of white hair. Looks to be fur. That is jammed. Sorry, it's jammed under the door, kind of right on the hinges.
And he'll take this. He was trying to pry this little piece of fur out, and he'll hold it up with just his fingers and his thumb, so that everyone can see. How is it? It was very long hair.
Yeah, well, I mean, from some sort of long-haired animal. It's fur, yeah. But it's yeah.
Okay. And he just gonna pat Oscar in kind of not an assuring kind of a good job kind of way, just as he holds up the fur.
Yes. We go somewhere else, maybe. No need to talk to dog. He looks to the door on the other side. Yes? No? You want to talk to dog, Eli?
Do I want to talk to a dog? Just open the door.
Why? It's growl. It's angry. Owner not home.
We could always keep going up the stairs and hope that the next floor up is a little less, and she'll look at the painting for a second. Terrifying.
Yeah. Okay, yes. I know if my dog home, someone open door, my dog bite person. I'm no open the door.
I didn't take you for being afraid of a dog, Oscar.
Nor am I a killer of small animals.
I didn't say anything about killing the dog right out.
I told you I do not fight. Dog, why fight? There are more doors, more stairs.
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but Oscar, you don't fight at all?
Of course, but no words. I don't fight unless must.
Oh, gotcha. So unless there's no other option, you choose not to fight. All right,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That is slightly less horrifying. All right, let's why don't we keep going upstairs?
Here's the problem I have with that, Phil.
What's that?
One of the key reasons why, or one of the key things of hunting monsters is if there is a potential monster, you don't leave it at your back and just continue on the way. I want to make sure that this is, in fact, a little dog. If it's a dog, we give it a treat, we pet it on its head, or, worst case, we shut the door on it. If it's more than a dog, I want to deal with it.
Yeah, it's probably going to be more than a dog. All right, that's fine if you think that's best.
We're all standing here with spears and daggers and whatnot, and you're afraid of a dog. I'm going to walk, as I'm saying this, I'm going to walk over and I'm going to open the door.
So Oscar's going to slam his hand on the door to stop Eli from opening it, and he will actually lean in. Oscar not scared, ever scared. Oscar no fight if he does not have to.
Would
If it makes you feel any better, I am absolutely scared. Just throwing that out there, but continue.
Would you rather, Oscar, to not fight this dog right now, or have it later come after us and have to fight it when we could have dealt with it now on our own terms?
I care more about the words you use than what is on other side of the door. Do not tell me I scared. And he'll kind of like forlornly look away for a second, thinking of probably something that has troubled him in the past.
All right, Oscar, you're right. I shouldn't have said you were scared. If you don't want to deal with what's on the other side of this door, then why don't you lead the way and head on upstairs?
What about this door? He will point to the door opposite.
That's fine too. If you want to see what's behind that door, lead the way.
And he'll kind of look at the door where the growl was coming from. Is there much of a space under it when Everchild was down there looking at the fur or grabbing at it?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a space. Nothing more than what you would normally expect.
Maybe you look under, and he'll glance at Everchild meaningfully. Put face very close to floor.
Everchild just shrugs, like, yeah. And he'll kind of just crawl on down on all fours and press his face into the ground and try and, like, close an eye and peer into the darkness that is underneath this crack of the door.
You do so, and it is fairly dark. But as your eyes adjust, and as you look, you can see a room. From the looks of what you can see, it's quite large. And you see a bag. And leaning against the bag is a shovel. You also see a dark shadow off to the left side of this bag. Can't quite make out what it is, but it was there, and then all of a sudden you see it dart off out of your line of vision.
Oscar, you'd hear the ghost-wise whisper of Everchild. 3 things my eyes see. A sack, a shovel, and and a being hidden in shadow. Quick it moves, quick it darts. I see it, now I don't.
Had Oscar heard the voice before? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, he'll look very perturbed, quite unsettled for a few moments until he possibly begins to connect the dots. Stares for a long minute, kind of slack-jawed. Wait, shovel. Bag. My bag of bricks. My lucky bricks. Eli, I am sorry. We will open door.
Everchild stands up, though, from being crouched. He'll put a hand out, and he'll say, oh, not say, but he'll, like, make the, kind of like the gesture on his hand, like of some animal kind of crawling across his arm. He kind of, like, bares his fangs to emote what a beast might do. Kind of, like, gesturing beyond the door.
Is it monster?
We've pretty much established there's a dog of some kind on the other side of this door. Now, if one more person stops me from opening a dang door,
Megan,
I'm going to reach out and I'm going to open the dang door.
Megan, could I get a sense of the size of the thing that was on the other side of the door?
Not, no, you couldn't really see, its full height.
So, but it was obviously just not a tiny little poodle.
Not tiny, but yeah, like I said, you can't really see the height of it. You could more so just kind of see the fact that it moved, kind of thing.
So, Eli, Everchild bounces. He bows to your proclamation, steps aside, and lets you do as you will to this door, despite his warning.
All right. I'm going to open the dang door.
All right. As you do so, harpsichord looms out of the darkness, facing a nearby standing harp. The brass-plated chandelier casts a dull sheen, as if to heartily warn you away. The fireplace lies cold, decorated by alabaster figurines of dancers neatly placed on the mantelpiece. Velvet upholstered chairs line the walls for those that would be serenaded with what would no doubt be beautiful music. But it's very lonely here, and a chill hangs in the air. In the center of this room, Oscar, you see a bag that looks quite familiar to you, and a shovel equally as familiar.
Unless it is incredibly tight quarters and he would have to shove Eli out of the way, he will move into the room, focused on the bag. My things!
As you start into the room, on the south side behind the harp, you hear a low growl.
Here, doggy.
You hear what sounds to be a whine, little bit, that morphs back into the sound of a growl. But whatever is lurking in the shadow does not approach.
Okay, you don't bite me, I don't bite you. I just want my bag. And he moves kind of side-saddled, step at a time to grab his shovel and his sack of bricks.
You do so, and as you're doing that, from the shadows, crouched down low, ears back, is a dog. Mangy and thin. It lowers its head at you and lets out this half-hearted growl.
Oscar will set the spear that he had down so that he doesn't have anything in his hands, but he's going to make sure that he's close enough to his shovel in his bag to grab him. And he will kind of lower himself a little bit so that he doesn't appear quite so 7 feet tall. He also looks towards Eli. You have the treat? You said we give treat, and then we...
Yeah, about that.
Why you like to dog?
I might have a little bit of food in my bag, maybe, if you don't have anything, Eli.
I'm just suddenly realizing that I only have my Monster Hunter kit. I don't have a full Explorer's pack. And I do not have any rations. Perhaps those went where my weapons went.
That could be. Fel will check her bag. Are her rations still there? She had some food.
Yep.
Cool.
That would be there.
So she'll kind of lean the spear that Oscar gave her against the wall, and then she'll walk over to Oscar, kind of sticking her head into the room, seeing the dog, and then she's going to reach into her bag, pull out a little chunk of like hardtack or maybe like some dried meat or something like that, and just kind of hand it off to Oscar, sort of lingering in the doorway just in case, but kind of looking from him to the dog.
The whole time they're doing this, I keep moving so that neither of them is between me and the dog, and I'm holding the spear at my side in a way that I can quickly use it if need be. I don't trust this dog. I don't say that, but my demeanor says that.
So you can see that this dog seems to be a little overwhelmed by the movement of all of you, and it's looking, its eyes darting from one to the other, ears folded back, teeth bared. But you can see that as it does so, it kind of falters a little bit as you bring out the food. Felitha, you see the dog for ever the briefest second, its ears perk up, and it is staring at the food.
Well, Oscar, give it to the dog. Maybe we can get it to come with us.
Yeah, Oscar will look at the food, look at the dog. He is trapped like us. I do not like this. Here, little doggy. And he'll take the food, and he doesn't expect the dog to eat from his hand, but he will reach out and place it maybe halfway between him and the dog. Again, remaining low, trying not to look too intimidating.
You see ever so slowly, the dog walks forward, looking from you to Eli, to the Everchild, to Felitha, as it slowly inches forward towards the food. And once it gets there, you can see that it hungrily takes it up. It doesn't run away, however. It stays where it is, and it eats the food. You see that its ears are up. Its tail is also up, wagging. As dogs do, it cleans up the meal in one snap and begins to look at the both of you, eyes wide, tail almost wagging.
Oscar is not going to stare into the animal's eyes because that is a aggressive action in the canine world, but he will glance at them. Are they a particular color? Is there anything about them?
You can see that they are, one of them is blue and the other one is green.
Does it have a collar or?
It does, yes.
Well, at this point, Oscar is going to pull out a bit more food. He thought perhaps there was a specific dog treat in mind because Eli had mentioned such, but realizing that he could feed it people food, he does reach into his own pack to pull out some ration. And he'll attempt an animal handling roll to get close enough to the dog to read the collar, if that's okay.
Yep, and you can make it with advantage because you have the food.
Woohoo! Much like real life. Oh god, I'm so glad I had advantage. I had a 2 and an 18. So with his bonus, that is a 19.
So the dog is very fixated on the food as you walk towards it. It almost doesn't seem to notice you. It just is focused on the food. And when it gets close enough, he would actually snap at the food, not aggressively, but just wanting it.
Yeah,
and you're... Sorry, go ahead.
Oscar will kind of dangle it just a little so the animal has to lean its head up to bite. That way he can get a better look at the collar.
You do that, and on the collar, you see etched in to the metal, you see the name Lancelot.
Poor dog. Left here, locked away, and with a name that is far too long. I call you Lance. Too many letters. Lancelot. Puppy dog. And he'll kind of give the rest of the food to the dog and then look to the others. Specifically to Eli. It's a dog.
Well, then we probably don't need to kill it. But I feel better knowing it's a dog.
Right. And no, I don't think we need to kill Lancelot. Is that what you said, Oscar?
Yes, his name tag says Lance-a-lot.
That's a terrible name for a dog. Well, he can surely, and she'll look at you as well, Eli. He can surely come with us, you know? I mean, maybe he knows, obviously he knows the house better than we do.
Well, I'm not one to keep what looks to be a starving dog locked up in this room.
Right.
But I'm not going to force it to come with us either.
Oh, no, of course. I mean, if it doesn't want to, then we shouldn't force it, obviously.
Although if Oscar keeps feeding it, it's going to be following him around.
Maybe we leave it here, close the door, and then when we are ready to go, we open the door again, let him out.
But what if we don't... what if we are not able to come back for one reason or another?
What? Why? He looks extremely confused by that.
I mean, who knows? I mean, we tried to open the door downstairs, and do you remember what happened?
It was bad weather.
Yes, it was bad weather that made both of our legs give out. It's not bad weather. That's much, much worse. See if you can get the dog to follow us out of the room.
Okay. Dog, come. He just assumes it'll follow, whether or not it does. That's all he knows about animals.
The dog kind of does its thing where it tilts its head to one side and then switches to the other side. Its ears kind of flop. But it does eventually follow you.
Maybe you sing, Eli. It likes music. And he points at the harpsichord and stuff.
I need to have a lot more drink in me before I start singing.
Yes. We will find the booze soon, I think.
So wait, we have a dog now. Are we the mystery gang? I vote Connor Shaggy.
Well, we did split the party already, so.
All right, well, for better or worse, we have a dog.
And Everchild sees that the situation with the hound has been placated in quite a bit, and so he's going to step into the room, and he's going to wander around its perimeter, looking at the banners and tapestries and the chairs, and just kind of making his way around the room. going away from the dog too, and away from the harpsichord. Essentially doing kind of a clockwise loop of the room.
You can see that there is, like the servants' quarters, quite a bit of dust in this room. Other than the various markings you can see that the dog had made from being in here for quite a while, anything above the dog's head is just covered in dust. And you also see that on top of the harpsichord are some figurines. But upon closer look, you see that the figurines are in fact skeletons carved from alabaster.
Are these skeletons wearing any kind of garments, or are they just bone?
They are wearing the same garments as what would be expected a fine lady or gentleman to wear. And they're even in the same poses, dancing. In one, the man has the woman dipped and looks as if he is just about to kiss her, but they're skeletons.
Every child finds this odd and continues his perusal of the room.
Other than that, and the old, musty chairs, you do not see anything else. I need you to actually make me an investigation check.
Alrighty. That is a 6.
You step in the poop.
Yeah, that is, that's all you notice.
Yeah. He will linger a bit near that harpsichord, because that is what they had been playing earlier. And in no way, shape, or form could a dog, locked in the room with a harpsichord, play said harpsichord. And so he's going to look for impressions on the stool from someone having sat there, any kind of dust marks on the keys of the instrument to see if it has been used recently, or if it's still in that very disrepairous, archaic dust covering.
You see that, yes, in fact, looks like it has not been used in a very, very long time. It is absolutely covered in dust. The keys, at least. You see that the bench is not, but upon closer look, you assume that it was because of the dog laying on the bench. It's a little bit too elongated to be someone sitting there.
Yeah, but that's just probably cushioned for comfort. And so Everchild begins to doubt whether he even heard the music earlier at the site of this harpsichord. Obviously not been touched in, decades, or at least years. And kind of finally, with his hands folded behind his back, comes back to the rest of the party and shrugs. He kind of like nods to the door across.
While the Everchild was kind of examining this room, Fel was almost instinctively going through the motions that she would have gone through with her father's dogs in their kennel over at the house of the Daggerford family, just sort of letting it smell her hand, and if it will let her pet it, she will try to just try and kind of establish that bond with this animal, which has clearly been locked up and alone for quite some time.
You immediately see that as soon as you put your hand near for it to sniff, it would sniff and immediately lean into it like dogs do, almost looking at you expectantly for some sort of ear scratch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She just starts scratching behind its ears, kind of, petting it and just saying, "You're the most wonderful thing we found in this house so far. Thank the gods." And then she kind of look over as Everchild approaches the group after looking around the room.
So Everchild, you pointed across to the next door.
Yeah, and after locking eyes with Felitha would hear Everchild's whisper voice. No sign of a child here. We must continue our search elsewhere. This is not the place we should be.
And she would nod and then look over to Eli and Oscar and just say, well, I suppose we check across the way and then head upstairs if there's nothing interesting there.
All right. Let's go open another door. Unless you have objections to this one, Oscar.
Maybe no this time.
Wonderful. I will go and open the door.
So you open the door, and immediately you know that this is a place of great study, a library. A wealth of knowledge sits on floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, weighty tomes of untold worth, novels, encyclopedias, poetry, histories. So vast is this library that a rolling ladder is necessary to reach the high shelves. An exquisite desk faces the hearth. Upon the mantelpiece thereof hangs a framed portrait of a windmill perched atop a rocky crag. 2 reading chairs flank the fireplace, stuffed and lovely and inviting. You see that there is, in fact, a fire lit in the hearth, casting a warm glow on this room.
Well, nothing interesting here. Let us go upstairs.
Wait. What do you mean there's nothing interesting here? Look at all of these books.
Yes, just books, nothing else.
Likewise, Everchild strides into the room with that opposite demeanor that Oscar just showed to the literature that stands beyond, almost sharing a bit of your enthusiasm, Felitha, as he just kind of idly wanders forth and just begins to trace his fingers on the shelves that he can reach. You know, looking at the spines of these books.
Bah. Oscar will lean down and give attention to the dog if it will take it, keeping eye in the hallway while the others rummage about in this paper haven.
I'm going to head over to the desk. As I walk to the desk, kind of stopping in front of it for a moment, and then as I walk around the desk to the other side where the chair is, just kind of tracing my hand across the surface of the desk, thinking it's been quite some time since I had a study of my own.
Eli, you see something on the desk. Something that reminds you of your old life. What is that thing that you see?
Oddly, it is a brass sculpture. Not very large. It's maybe 6 inches high. And I think looking at it sitting on this desk, it seems to be functioning as a sort of paperweight. But the 6 inch high and maybe roughly similar dimensions in width and length, is a brass sculpture of a countryside church.
Absolutely. And you see this church, and you're drawn to it. You feel like you need to touch it.
And I would kind of, as I round the corner of the desk and see it, I would almost hesitantly at first, and then just kind of reach out to run my finger along the crest of the roof near the where the steeple rises.
You see, as soon as you touch, it is burning hot. And you can almost hear the sounds of people screaming and the sounds of fighting within the church.
As my fingers are on this sculpture and I begin to hear these sounds, I picture it almost from a cinematic point of view with you can almost see, because I'm a dwarf, so my face is probably closer, not that high above the level of the desk. And looking across the surface of the desk and seeing this church and seeing my hand trembling and my face, it's all backlit by the fire that's burning in that fireplace. And in my ears, all I can hear is the crackling of that fire, and then the rising sounds of screams, the sound of swords clashing and fighting, slightly garbled, monstrous voices out beyond. And I think I would begin muttering what sounds like, similar to the involuntary prayer I had muttered earlier to Shantea. I begin muttering what sounds like subtle prayers to Shantea. And it literally just sounds like Shantea. 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 And as I'm breathing heavier and heavier, and there's this moment where it's just too much, and as I take my hand off the church, all that sound in my head stops, but the last thing I say, clearly, almost like a sleep talker suddenly blurting something out and awakening themselves. The prayer that I've been muttering, you can hear clearly as I say, "Fuck you, Shantea."
And this profanity you utter catches the ear of the Everchild. Though he does not turn to look, you can see his ear kind of pick it up from his side as he's startled by this. His finger no longer is tracing upon the spine that's paused, and he's still as he looks to you, slowly out of barely moving his head. What kind of state is Eli in after all this?
Cold sweat, breathing heavily, looking like somebody who has just awoken from a nightmare.
And Everchild hurries up to you and tries to assure you with a warm embrace and comfort with his presence.
And there's this moment where, as you kind of come in and sort of begin to embrace me, you feel that slight slackening of the muscles as of somebody who gives in to the compassion, who gives in to the embrace. And just as quickly, the muscles grow taut. And you hear this, and I not enough to push you down, but I forcefully push you away, putting a distance between us. Squeezing your shoulder, my thumb maybe digging just a little too hard into that spot where your shoulder socket is. I'm fine. And then I'll turn away.
Everchild kind of reaches out to you again, but you say "I'm fine" and turn away, and kind of his hand kind of hangs there a bit, and he lowers it and still looks at you as you're turning away and getting up out of the chair or whatever you're doing. He's making sure that you are actually all right, and then his gaze kind of lingers to see what Philitha and Oscar are doing.
I would actually say at that moment, I just kind of give almost a shrugging gesture at the desk. Oscar's right. There ain't nothing worthwhile in here, as I head towards the door.
I would beg to differ, Fel would say, and she has actually got like a stack of maybe 2 or 3 books. Like maybe one is about like the geography of the region, the other is about like, you know, famous playwrights from Barovia. Maybe just 2 books, and she's already like maybe a quarter of the way through a third book, and she completely missed this whole scene between Eli and the Everchild until Eli said, "There's nothing of interest here," and she's like, "I would beg to differ. There are a lot of very interesting books in here."
Spending a lot of time in the library in Daggerford, you are familiar with a lot of very nice books, first editions, stuff like that, and you find so much of that. Many of them are first editions, many very interesting books that you could not find anywhere else. In your looking, I would like you to make a perception check for me, please.
Let's see, perception. I have a +0, but I've been rolling pretty well tonight. Let's see. Well, I spoke too soon. That's an 8.
All right. You see a lot of books. A lot of very interesting books.
There are so many interesting books in here. Could we stay here for just like a few moments? Like, I mean, apart from the dog, this is like easily and she kind of stops for a second. I will say this is the second best thing that we found in this house. And then she's actually going to put down the book she's reading and pick up another one, and just, again, picking a random place to start, just kind of flip through the pages.
You see, Fel, a cover catches your eye because it is the color of the Daggerford family. And you can even see the crest on the spine. And upon reading the title, it says the death of the Daggerford line.
And Fel has one of those moments where it's like, you know, it's like a hot day and you've like, you know, just taken your first bite of like an ice cream cone or something, and it's great and everything's wonderful. And then you realize you have that sinking sensation as you realize that you've just got like ice cream all over your like shirt and your pants, and it's just a mess and everything's terrible. And so she has that moment of realization when she sees the title and the crest on the spine of this book. And she sets the book down that she was reading, and she gets up and almost reluctantly moves over, very hesitantly, just draws the book out from the shelf, and opens it to see what it contains.
You look in, and it describes the death of many of your ancestors in battle, through disease, through childbirth. It seems to document every single person. From the beginning, from the creation of the Daggerford surname, the Daggerford line, all the way through. And upon flipping towards the end, see the name of your father. The name of the Duchess appear. You see that it describes how uncountered, no one stood against Morwen as she slew Duke of Daggerford. No one was there to help. No one was there to aid her father against this plot. And you read that the Duchess goes on to become the leader, to become the ruler of Daggerford, and goes on to sully the Daggerford name because of her ruthlessness, because she becomes a prideful, jealous, paranoid creature who stole money, who led pointless wars, taking sons away from mothers, husbands away from wives, until she died of a cut she gave herself that got infected. And then you see your name. But it looks as though, and as you begin to read, you start to read about the young Fell who traveled to a distant land, but was betrayed by those she held as friends. And as you're reading to find more information that would go into greater detail, the words start to swim. They become blurrier and twisting and turning and swirling until you see this blue glow begin to appear on the pages. And this orb floats out of the words, out of the book. And it rushes at you, Fel. And it just explodes into your chest. You feel the force of it. It knocks you back a little bit. But you also feel this sense of wholeness. A sense of power that you can't really explain.
So Fel would stagger back from the impact of this orb. What is the state of the book right now?
You look at the book, and it is blank. Nothing written at all.
So she would start flipping towards probably the pages towards the end where she originally saw the information about her being betrayed by her companions and whatnot. Just frantically looking for any sign of any kind of writing, anything about her origins, specifically about her mother. But then I'm assuming all the pages are blank, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So she sees that all of these pages are blank, and there's this feeling of dread intermingling with that sense of wholeness that you described previously, and it starts to rise and turn into something almost like anger. And in this just fit of pique, she throws the book into the fireplace. And as she does, there are these faint wisps of almost teal-colored fire that burn through the fingertips of her calfskin gloves, and she stops, wondering if this is real, and the little teal-colored streaks of fire just fade, and she looks back at the others, and she just says very quietly, "We need to get out of here right now."
The rest of you, I would like all of you to make perception checks, please.
I got a 6. I'm probably too occupied with the gruff man named Eli.
That's a 5.
I also have a 5.
Combined, we
Right.
got a 16.
All right, well, okay. So you all see and hear Fell's outburst.
Was Fell reading anything about her out loud, or is it all just like a
She
normal
probably
person?
she probably would have kept it to herself.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like an anthology of the Daggerford family or a genealogy of the Daggerford family, she would be reading that out loud.
I told you there wasn't anything good in this room.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought I said this.
Yeah, you did.
It is like my father always told me. Oscar, books are for people who have lots of free time. This is not you. Get back to work.
It's funny. We need to leave, and not just this room, but this house. Maybe there's another way out. I mean, and she looks visibly shaken. I know we want to help these children, help them find their brother and find their parents, but maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe we should just try and leave again, not through the front door, but somewhere else. There has to be another way out of here.
Belitha,
Maybe-
the child is most important, is what Everchild whispers to you.
And she would actually, hearing this voice in her head, she would actually shake her head, almost like a dog that's had this unexpected bath, just sort of shaking her head vigorously, and just say, "Don't do that." And she'll look right at you. "Don't do that. Not right now." And she's kind of tugging at her gloves, and you would see that all the fingertips on these gloves are completely burned off and probably smoking slightly. We need to get out of here. This isn't a safe place. We need to go right now.
Think of the child. Be in the child's shoes.
We don't even know if there is a
Think of
child.
when
It could
we're
be like this dog that we thought was a monster. We just and then she's going to just walk out of the library, and or the study, I suppose. And then she's actually going to start heading for the stairs. I'm just pushing past anybody that gets in her way, or trying to, because if it's Oscar, she probably could not push past him.
Everchild would like run to, I don't know, grab the hem of your shirt, perhaps, just to kind of tug and hold you back, to stop you from leaving unabashedly by yourself.
So as you grab her kind of the doublet that she's wearing, Everchild, there is this moment where she looks at you, and again, there's this sort of teal-colored light across her eyes, and she just says, "Let go." And she's actually going to attempt to touch you with her hand. And I'm going to roll. That's a 7, so I'm assuming that misses. So you see the glove now, it starts to almost pulse with these crackling arcs of teal-colored electrical energy. As she was clearly attempting to cast some kind of spell, but she just clumsily kind of sideswipes and completely misses you. And she almost looks as surprised as probably you are as she looks down at her hand, the glove which is now smoking and fallen off, revealing this pale, very delicate elvish hand, or half elvish hand. And she just looks at you and says, "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm sorry."
The smell of ozone from this probably destroys Everchild's nostrils for a mere moment. But in the brief moment of, I guess, emotional weakness, if that's a thing, Everchild will continue to hold you, but less firmly and more like just on either side, in a comforting, just looking at you. And he's visibly puffing out his chest and letting it fall. Just helping you breathe and calm down. And he's closed his eyes.
And I think after the initial shock has worn off, she would just sort of kind of sit down, get on Everchild's level, and just start breathing along with him. But she is shaking. There's sweat dripping down her face, and she is paler than usual.
And continuing this breathing exercise, Everchild goes in closer, just more comforting and assuring in his presence. Just trying to help you find some stability in your mindset. Find some stability in the emotions that are turmoiling in your mind and in your heart. And when you've sufficiently calmed, he'll let go and let you rise. And he will anoint a bit of holy water on your forehead. A small dab.
And Fel would slowly stand up, and as she does, Everchild, she'd kind of lean into you just a little bit and just whisper in your ear in halfling. She'd just say, "I don't know what's going on." And then she would sort of straighten up, kind of take off her other gloves, since the counterpart is probably charred and smoking on the ground, and she'd look to Eli and Oscar and say, I'm not entirely sure what that was. I still think we should try and get out, but the Everchild's right. He was telling me that the child is most important, and so we should try and find this child if we can.
I agree. I think we should continue upward.
Right.
So, that was awesome. So, Jason, you get a point of inspiration if you want.
I will take that.
But, before you say, you also have to take a point of corruption.
Absolutely.
With that.
I will take both.
All right. Yay, we got our first corruption point.
Yeah.
So at the end, I will have you roll, and I will tell you how that corruption affects you. So, we're going to be, just a little bit of a side note for the audience, we're going to be using corruption, and so how we're going to be using it a little bit differently, in that whenever someone does something that is a product of this world, either in a violent or just something that isn't them, or they act kind of without, basically, they just react differently than they normally would, then I will award them, if they would like, a inspiration point and a corruption point. And then at the end, I have a little roll table, and you will roll based on how many corruption points you have, and that thing that you get stays with you for the rest of the game. But every time every time a session restarts, we restart the corruption. So that's how that works. All right, so you were all leaving the library, I assume?
And before we leave the library, Everchild is just going to make kind of a grand statement where he whispers to all three of them. Fear is just a test of our strengths. And like pillars holding up a cathedral or a temple or a building, it is the weakest one that will cause everything to crumble. Be strong, look inwards, and trust in your strength to overcome your fears, and trust in the light of Lathander to guide our way. And then he nods, and then lets us all continue.
Oscar.
Trust in my own light. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think Oscar was probably gonna mutter something like that too, like "No fear, very strong."
So you guys are out in this little common room with all the the smashed things of armor. There is a staircase that continues, the spiraling staircase continues further up. What would you like to do?
Megan, real quick, since Oscar's been in this center room for quite a bit of the session here, while the others were investigating and doing much more important things, is there any chance that he could salvage any of this armor?
Yes.
Breastplate, plate, just piecing stuff together.
Yes, absolutely. It's a little bit worn, but it's in fairly good condition.
Yeah, he'll attempt to get some sort of medium armor, and you can tell me what you think would be the most plausible.
Okay. I would imagine you'd be able to, get some sort of breastplate, maybe a couple of the shoulder pauldrons. I would say that you could get enough to count as medium or heavy armor.
He'll go for medium. He's gonna put together a half plate, which would be 15 AC.
Okay.
And it'll be bulky and clinging. Doesn't quite fit right. He's kind of like pulling things out of his bag to try and tie off the shoulder straps, which would have rotted away, perhaps. But he'll follow the others if they head up.
I would say that you probably would have disadvantage on stealth.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
And it's about 40 pounds. It's clinky and not awesome.
Okay. All right.
Look, I am guard now.
Very nice.
It's funny, Oscar.
Well, you have toys and books. Look, I have rust.
You have rust.
So are you guys heading upstairs then? Or
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you guys head upstairs. And when you get to the 3rd floor, you can see that this, if the 2nd floor was a little bit dusty, this is covered in dust and cobwebs. The smell of must is almost too much to handle. The air is just choked. The walls are carved with autumn woodland scenes and are mounted by unlit oil lamps. Suddenly, you can hear the sounds of a baby crying. And it seems to be coming from the, where is it coming from? It seems to be coming from the west.
Everchild just leaps into action here, hearing that cry of the baby, would sprint with his little pitter-patter legs over to the west wall, over to the west door, and not even giving any heed for concern or caution, would push open that door or pull it open.
As you're trying to open the door, the rest of you are at the top of the stairs at this point, and all of you watch in possible horror as the armor that was standing at the edge begins to move. And it slowly turns, almost robotic-like, towards the Everchild. And you can see that this one is carrying a sword. And it raises up its sword towards the Everchild and brings it down. And that's where we're going to end.
Oh,
I was waiting for either that or roll for initiative.
That will be next one. Love you.
that baby cry. Oh, I'm scared.
Nothing
You know,
scarier than children.
You know, as soon as there's a child involved in a Megan game, that's when things go from a 6 to an 11 on skill.
Yep.
That's when it's game over. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Well, that's speechless. Yeah.
there we go.
I'm glad we're playing again.
Me too.
And I think what you've done to incorporate the map and the fog of war is fantastic.
Good. I will.
I think you're doing, as always, you're doing incredible with setting the tone and describing the scenes, but it really helps us to figure out where we are, I think.
Yeah.
And get a context for room size and things like that with the use of the map.
I know with me, I'm not a very spatial person, so I have a very hard time visualizing things. So and in turn, it makes it very difficult for me to explain things. If I can't imagine them, then it's hard for me to explain it. So I find that this takes a lot of the stress off of me of like, well, is this the west door or is this the north door? Is it, you guys can just look and be like, I want that one, that door. So yeah, no, I'm glad. I think it worked out, and I'm glad you guys liked it. So yeah, before I forget though,
Somebody got corruption.
Yeah.
Yay! And magical powers.
Boo.
So
I'm very jealous because you got your magic and I don't.
Finally, join us on the dark side, Felithar.
Apparently.
So, you are going to make a wisdom saving throw.
Oh, great. Sorcerers are great at that, said nobody. That is a 3.
All right, I'm going to get...
What was that sound?
That was a release of tension, clearly.
Yeah. I'm going to get you to roll a d8.
Say what?
I'm going to get you to roll a d8 because you failed.
Okay. Because you
Miserably.
failed. That's a 2.
Failure.
That's a 2.
All right, so you are now... You now feel compelled to collect anything and everything of mild value you can. Simple trinkets you stumble across must be gathered and carried, if able, until you cannot carry any more.
Wow. Okay. All
Might
right.
have to borrow the rucksack for that.
I might. Tell me more about your rucksack, Elon.
You mean my rucksack that's actually a chest?
Yes, the rucksack that's actually a wooden chest. A chest of wood.
What's it made of
I thought
again?
I thought it was funny that you were the one that described it before I got a chance to.
I was like, I gotta head him off at the pass, otherwise you're gonna hear about this wooden chest all night. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to do it deliberately. Just because.
I
For
break
those
down
that
this
might
wooden
not know,
chest.
it's
Chest
not
of
just a backpack.
It's a wooden
It's a chest of wood.
Made of wood, no less.
Which I did realize in looking over my character sheet, I had made a mistake. Technically, I should have had rations because the Monster Hunter's kit is a background feature, not a class feature. So I should also have the Explorer's
The fighter.
pack.
Yeah.
No big deal. I just didn't want to
Okay.
give my food to some mangy
I was
dog.
gonna say we all knew it was just because you didn't want to feed the poor dog.
I was pretty convinced it was going to be one of those horror bears from Annihilation.
Horror bears.
Horror bears.
Horror bears.
Oh, the Zorbos? Is that what you're talking about? The
No,
Zorbos?
not Tomb of Annihilation, the movie Annihilation.
Oh.
Or Bastards of Bastion.
No.
No.
Just
Jeremy
Oh,
used,
those
Jeremy
bears.
used them against us in his campaign recently too as Carnage Hounds. I think that's why I was a little scared.
All right.
I
Well,
digress.
thank you for playing. I had a really, really awesome time. I am so glad that we're playing and that we're getting into it. So, and I mean, as always, I always plan out for lots, and then you guys do like really awesome RP, and so yeah, no, it's
Spend an hour and a half in one room.
We're
Yeah.
never leaving the house.
Nope. The whole campaign is
The
just
whole
the house.
campaign is
But yeah, I mean, we're getting there. So I will never ever sacrifice, role play in terms of time. That just is ridiculous. But so I'm really loving it, and all you guys' characters are awesome. So thank you.
Hey, Megan, what's going on over here?
Oh.
This empty square. What's this all about?
Well, half of it was supposed to be, half of it is because I ran out of time, but there's supposed to be a spooky image there. But, it is because we will be welcoming a 5th player the next time we play.
What? What a surprise.
Fantastic. That is entirely new information.
It will be
for the corpse god.
It will be the fantastic Karen Davies. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how she kind of is introduced, and hopefully you guys don't like kill her just in the first like
All right.
Spoiler alert, she's the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
the
actually
dog
in
or
the
the
suit
baby?
of armor. She's in the suit of armor. She's like,
she's
"No,
the
no, no, no."
baby.
Gaga.
She's the suit of armor attacking every child.
Yep.
Where there's
This
a
guy
baby
looks like a
inside
jerk.
the suit of armor.
Is the baby going gaga inside the suit of armor? And this baby is like a level 20 like telepath or something like that.
Oh my god.
Like telekinetic psionic.
Ugh.
Yep, that sounds good. All right. Well,
Sounds good.
All right.
so
Into my plans.
all of these fantastic people, look, if they have social media stuff, all of that will be in the description below. So please go and subscribe. I almost said describe. Go describe them. Go subscribe to them on whatever social media is down there, Twitter and YouTube. So, and thanks again, and thanks everyone for watching, and have a good night.
Feel bad.